So let's get started with story one. This week, everyone's attention was focused on the World Economic Forum, which takes place each year in Davos, Switzerland. The WEF receives the world's top politicians, economists, business people, financial leaders, as well as prominent representatives of other issues, including the environment and healthcare.
This week also saw some big news for Europe. The European Central Bank, which administers the monetary policy of the Eurozone, announced it would be injecting 1.1 trillion euros into the economy using quantitative easing.
Before we find out more, what is quantitative easing?
QE, as it is also known, is essentially where a central bank prints more money. It doesn't have to be physical banknotes, but rather increasing the numbers on a computer, to put it simply. This move is seen as controversial because debt-ridden countries like Greece stand to gain support from QE, despite the biggest contributors to the European Central Bank being Germany and France. It can also impact pensions and savings, plus it could increase income and wealth inequality. On the other hand, it helps to keep interest rates low and encourages people to borrow and spend money.
This has made quantitative easing a big topic in the Eurozone this week. It was also a point of discussion for Germany at the World Economic Forum.
Joining us on the phone now from Davos is Manuela Kasper-Claridge, Deutsche Welle's head of business and science, to tell us more about 2015's WEF. Manuela, for those who don't know, how important is the World Economic Forum and what were the key topics this year?
Well, the World Economic Forum is a very important business venue, of course, but this year we have a great participation of not just business leaders, also of politicians. There are over 300 ministers and presidents here, also Angela Merkel of Germany, or I don't know, from South Africa, Jacob Zuma, and many, many more, Shimon Peres and so on. But as you probably hear in the background, Davos is also a showcase for countries which want to advertise for themselves. Like at the moment, Malaysia is holding a big party here, inviting all Davos participants, and it's over 2,000, to celebrate with them that they are share of Asian. And so you see, it is also a party and it's not just about politics or business. But regarding the topics, of course, this is not as bright as the parties here because there's a gloomy outlook for the world economy and the world is in crisis, and that is a subject many people discuss here in Davos.
So both Chancellor Angela Merkel and the Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble have attended the WEF this year. What did they have to say? What kind of message did they bring to the forum?
Well, first of all, it was not just the Chancellor and the Finance Minister, but 6 more members of the German cabinet. So you see that obviously this venue was quite important for them. But Germany is the G7 chair this year, and so they wanted to emphasize on the topics Germany wants to push. One is, of course, how to tackle climate change. Then Germany wants to make clear that it will be a powerful economy in Europe, which is acting very considerate in the way that it watches its spending, that it's going for austerity and not so much for spending more money when they don't have it. And Chancellor Merkel had a huge audience here. It was packed, actually. And she also commented on the crisis in Ukraine and on the situation in Greece. In Ukraine, as you know, there's this conflict going on, and the Europeans are putting pressure on Russia to stop the conflict there. And so this wasn't such good news, and German Chancellor said she will stand, and Germany will stand with the Ukrainian people in their fight for independence and democracy.
I also know that Germany has an opinion on Greece's position in the Eurozone as well. I mean, that's also been brought up in at the World Economic Forum this year.
Yes, of course, Greece was a topic, although nobody from Greece was here, not the Prime Minister or any other representatives. But that's understandable because the election is obviously this weekend, so they have to be in Greece and not here. But yes, there was a discussion, and Germany said that it is absolutely convinced that Greece will stay in the Eurozone and Germany will do everything it can to help Greece.
Yes, and Angela Merkel said that Greece must pay back its debt. Some were saying that perhaps Angela Merkel...
Yeah, but she didn't say how quickly they have to pay it back and so on. And I think the Germans are much more relaxed, or the German government, that's what I heard, than probably the press is printing it at the moment. Because don't forget, Greece is a small economy. Greece can't bring the Eurozone down, you know. What's more important is that France is doing its job, that France is gaining momentum again, also business-wise. That's much more important for the Eurozone than the situation in Greece.
So, speaking of the Eurozone, this week the European Central Bank announced a huge boost in quantitative easing in the Eurozone of over 1 trillion euros, basically injecting 1 trillion euros into the economy is how I would describe it. This move has been heavily criticized by some, including the CSU's finance expert and people across the political spectrum, I would say. What was the reaction in Davos, and what will this mean for Germany?
Well, there are many people here from the United States, from Britain and so on, and many investment bankers and bankers in general, and they said, well, that's something that was expected, obviously, from the European Central Bank. Any other move, like, for example, they wouldn't have done quantitative easing now, would have been much worse, because that would have surprised the markets, and the markets don't like surprises. So the bankers here said, okay, now it's been done, and now we can see what is going to happen. Of course, there's a debate, is this really necessary? And we have like two groups. We have one group, more than a single group. There's Germany, there's some people from the Netherlands and from Finland. They are saying austerity is much more important. There's enough liquidity in the market. And then there are others, they say, okay, we have deflation, or we have the fear or the possibility of deflation, and we have to fight it with more money in the market. Well, I can't tell you what's true. We will only know in probably 1 year or so who was right and who was wrong.
To finish off, would you say that there is an optimistic atmosphere for the future at this year's World Economic Forum?
Well, actually, the general world outlook for the world economy is not terribly bad. It's quite good, actually. There's a growth expected of 2.5%, I think. And it's mixed. It depends how the crises in some countries, how they will develop, and then probably also affect other countries and affect the world economy. Nobody knows now how it will go, for example, in Syria with the refugee situation. That's a problem. Then Ukraine and Russia and many more conflicts also in Africa. So it all depends how it goes, if we are able, as the world is able, to solve these problems in a peaceful way. And we don't know yet. Obviously, it's the beginning of the year.
So, Manuela, Kasper-Claridge from Deutsche Welle, thank you very much for joining us here on This Week in Germany.
You're welcome.